Welcome back to the program. Time now for our hot potato political roundtable. I'm joined by Tamika Edwards and Robert Coon, two top business and politics contributors. Thank you both for being here.
Glad to be here.
Tamika, I give you first ups.
All right, so impeachment has been the talk of the town, of the nation, of the country lately, and I'm more concerned about a couple of things. One, the impact it will have on our elections, and two, the bar that we set for an impeachable offense, because we continue to hear that that's not an impeachable offense. So what is an impeachable offense?
What do you think an impeachable offense is, Robert?
It's a nebulous concept. I think, high crimes and misdemeanors is kind of subjective. What do you want it to mean? I think that's part of the problem is there's no real concrete description of what an impeachable offense is. And so, these exercises, as they have in the past, turn into partisan exercises. And right now, per the election, Republicans are mostly against him being impeached. Democrats are mostly for it. Independents are leaning for it, but not by large margins on most of the polls I've seen. So to me, everybody's kind of got their mind made up. The show just has to continue.
For me, I do feel like the Democrats did not have a choice but to bring some of this forward. There was something that they thought was impeachable that was going to impact the election. The argument that you let the election decide all of this. The president's accused of trying to influence the election.
Right. That's right.
It's kind of, you can't really, I don't think they had a choice but to let that happen there. So I too am also interested in how the obstruction of Congress plays out in the long run, because the tables will turn someday.
That's right.
When Republicans in Congress will want to find out what's going on in the executive branch of a Democratic administration, and have we set a new precedent now? I guess is the question. You don't have to participate.
That's what we encounter on almost every issue now is, well, they did this last time, and so I think you're right. That's eventually going to turn back around, and somebody's going to say, well, this was worth it last time, so why is it not good enough now? So.
Yeah, but that's just terrible for us having any type of progress in our country if we just continue to go back and do the very things, and I've said this before, that we teach our children not to do.
All right, Robert, you get the next topic.
Well, Tamika talked about progress for our country. It looks like the USMCA, NAFTA 2.0 is almost all the way through the process, something the president kick-started, had to hand it over to Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats to get it actually going. So who declares victory? Who are the winners?
I think both can declare victory. I know the Democrats were able to move forward because they had a sign-off from the labor unions, and so when we look at those agreements and negotiations across the border, it will benefit those workers there as well. And so I think it's a victory, and both sides can say that it's a victory.
I think the dairy farmers of America get the biggest victory out of the USMCA. They seem to get their Canadian markets opened up there. So
I think it's good for rice and poultry too, and it's probably good for everything else that's been jammed up waiting on that to get through the committee process, like tax extensions.
We'll see how quickly it goes. All right, last hot potato topic is mine. We had a Supreme Court ruling in Arkansas this past week of optometrist versus ophthalmologist, or back at it again. At least the signatures are going to be counted now. There's no determination as to whether or not it'd be on the ballot or not. But Robert, give a little bit of background of what this issue is about.
Yeah, so our firm actually worked for one of those sides during the legislative session earlier this year during that debate, and it's a mouthful and it's an eyeful. Ultimately, to me, the big story is the Supreme Court has made a determination on what constitutes an emergency, or what language is necessary to be in a bill to justify an emergency, which I think is, to me, it's new ground. It's one of those. This is not a sovereign immunity type of thing, but it does kind of have a ripple into the legislative process. Emergency clauses are used all the time. They're used in very subjective emergencies, right, when someone wants to get something in place immediately. And so I think it's it's a new frontier for the court to dip their hand into that. And to me, that's the biggest news of this whole decision was how it was made.
Tamika?
Yeah, I think so too. The crux is the emergency clause and the interpretation of the court with the emergency clause, because we know the other side in the case says that the court has made a ruling earlier this year about, not maybe specific to the emergency clause, but stating that something was able to move forward because it the clause was immediately, a factor. And so I think in looking at this case, it seems that the court has reversed itself. But I am not a legal commentator, so do not take that as a legal opinion. But just in reading the information, it just seems that the court has probably said something different than what it said before.
Well, as I said, that no determination if it's going to be on the ballot or not, but at least the signatures are going to be counted now. So we will see if we will have another ballot issue perhaps in a few weeks.
Clear vision.
Look at that. The eyes have it.
Lots of
There's another one.
lots of
Hey,
lab coats on your TVs this fall, I'm sure.
All right, we got to get out of here because that's enough punishment. So Robert Coon, Tamika Edwards, thank you both very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're back with more right after this.